Well, we're getting into that big debate about GMOs, genetically modified organisms. You recall the recent approval of maize seed for planting and the rest. That has gotten a lot of people talking. And then they realize that, oh, it's not just that. There's a lot more. But then there's been a lot of back and forth. Well, it's good. It's the way forward. This reduces, the prevalence of, what? Let me just hold my horses and invite the expert here on the show this morning. We're joined by Professor Celestine Agworu, President, Nigeria Biotech and Biosafety Consortium, Dean, College of Biological Sciences, Federal University of Agriculture, Benue State. He joins us live from our Kano studio. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on Morning Brief.
Well, great to have you. I was going to get into all of the controversies, but then I just reminded myself, you're not the expert here. Let us speak with the expert. So GMO, that is a buzz term that gets a lot of people worried because they hear GMO and naturally you think of all of the extreme cases. Wait a minute, this is not real in some sense. There's been some modification of what I am putting into my body, and people have tagged it as causing cancer, some genetic issues and the rest. So let's just start from the basics. What are GMOs? Why do we have GMOs in the first place? Why don't we just leave our plants and our foods the way God created them?
Thank you very much. Genetically modified organisms are organisms equipped with what ordinarily they shouldn't have, to be able to survive adverse conditions or improve their quality. Genetic engineering is not applied to only agriculture. It's applied to, there's environmental biotech, that is genetic engineering is called the modern biotechnology. There's the environmental biotechnology, the health biotechnology, and then the agricultural biotechnology. Now, I guess that some of you in the studio, they would have taken the alpha interferon hepatitis B vaccine. And some who may be diabetic are also taking insulin. All of them are products of genetic engineering. And so there's no much debate about that. Where we have a lot of debate is on agricultural biotechnology. And how do that come in? A lot of people today even go ahead to call the normal hybrids that we have, which came in through the traditional breeding processes. Because of the way the products look, they call it GMOs. No, they are not. The moment you see that, you know that the person is ignorant. By the way, the Nigeria Biotechnology and Biosafety Consortium is a consortium of experts in the area of biotechnology and in the area of biosafety. And we came into being so that any person who is confused, who has a question, should be able to approach us, and we give clear and accurate information on any product of genetic engineering that the person is in doubt of. Now, there is this debate from the beginning about GMO, because possibly the first set were genetically engineered to survive application of pesticides. But it's not only that. An organism could be engineered to survive pesticides, resist pests. Where that is done, you will not need to apply the pesticides that you needed ordinarily to protect that plant. You can engineer to take care of micro hunger. by improving the quality of the crop. And this is usually done by experts. They are not done. Now, I can see the picture that you have on your television. The moment you see someone carrying a needle and then holding a plant and injecting something into it and say that is how GMOs are produced, you know that the person does not actually know the procedures and the person is ignorant. And for us as experts, we started from around 2012 when we held the first conference in Benue, calling the attention of government that the world is leaving us behind. We need a specialist regulatory body to look at issues of biosafety and biosecurity for Nigeria, which GMOs are part of. And we are grateful to the then governor of Benue State, His Excellency Right Honorable Dr. Gabriel Towa, who provided the funds. We held that, and then we made a call to the government. Little did we know that even the biosafety unit of the Federal Ministry of Environment was also making efforts for it to be transformed to an agency, which we have today, that is regulating the practice of modern biotechnology in Nigeria. And we are here. I can assure you that there is no link between any genetically modified crop and cancer or any of those things that people are raising. This is a specialist area. It's not an area where people with tangential knowledge should be recruited into to begin to propagate things that are not real. We have enough
if I'm a
qualified experts in this country who are into research, not just here, including Nigerians in the diaspora.
If I'm a button,
we have two expert societies in Nigeria, the Biotechnology Society of Nigeria and the Genetic Society of Nigeria. We have critical mass of experts, in these two societies, that if any person is in doubt, we call from those places. In Nigerian universities, we have experts too. In my own university, we have a sequencing laboratory, and we are training people there.
All right, Prof, if you can hear me, if I'm a button, Prof, if you can hear me.
Foreign genes in any organism.
All right, you had mentioned that there is no proof and all of that, but we've heard scientists say that no matter how well-intended a drug is, let me use the word drug. The reason I use that word drug is based on chemicals now used to produce drugs. Even if it's pain relievers and all of that, it still has side effects. So it's difficult to understand and accept, even for lay people, that an organism or a plant or a crop will be genetically modified and there are no effects. Is it really true that there are no effects?
As I speak to you now, there is no such effect. Now, this modification that we are talking about is not that you pick a chemical and inject into a crop. What is it? I am breeding a plant, whether traditionally through the classical breeding or through molecular breeding. Let's take, for instance, the cowpea, which first generated all the issues that we have. Cowpeas has been bred to resist striga, the weed striga, through molecular means. Then the maruca that was affecting it. Every effort has been made to deal with it, including the use of chemicals, and it was not working. And then scientists, having understood what DNA is, that modifying the genetic makeup could make that plant to resist the maruca that affected it. That was done. And it's like any other plant. The first thing that is tested is the gene of insert. Does it have any negative effect on this plant? That is checked and confirmed no. The protein which helps the plant to resist the Maruca pest, does it have any side effect? Is it allergenic? All those tests are done from beginning to the end. And then the food quality is compared with the one that has not been genetically engineered. And when this is done, it is even put back for the traditional classical breeders to monitor the agronomic traits before it gets to the point of commercialization. Now, what happens if you were using 10 liters of pesticide to control Maruca? The moment you use the genetically modified one, which could now resist the pest, you use less than a liter or 1 liter of it. That protects the environment. So I don't know where this fear is coming from.
Prof,
in fact,
I'm wondering whether if this lack of link between GMOs to cancer and all the other concerns is really due to evidence suggesting that there is none, or lack of evidence because the players in the industry have refused to embark on that search for evidence because of the potential for commerce that they can benefit from. But do you also, I'd like you to respond to that, and do you also rule out worries published by health websites about, the possibility of allergies due to the consumption of genetically modified organisms, because you are consuming something which DNA has been altered. Apart from that, a loss of harvest, because GMO crops are resistant to herbicides, and all the other worries as well in that mix. There's also, the potential damage of GMOs to honeybees.
No. Now, that is part of what is checked. Does the gene of insert and the protein synthesized at the end of the day, do they affect non-target organisms? All these are taken care of before any person could think of bringing out any product of genetic engineering. Now, like I said, there is no link. We are searching for the link also, and there is none as we speak today between GMOs and the cancer that people talk about. There's no such evidence. Secondly, the moment if a crop is genetically modified to resist a pest or a disease, you no longer need to apply the pesticide that originally you used to. And that reduces the pesticide residue there, that reduces the pesticide that you put into the environment. But it seems that people have refused to ask questions at the proper place. That look, genetic engineering does not modify crops only to resist pesticides. If that is the target, yes, the crop will be modified to resist pesticides. But if that is not the target, it's targeted as at a pest, it will be modified to resist the pest. You no longer need the chemical with which you treat the plant against the pest. The plant in itself takes care of that pesticide. And all these things are tested to make sure that there's no link, it's not allergic. Now, if you take the cowpea, for example, what we know as beans, there are people that if they eat beans, the one that we have here, they have flatulence, they have this gas in their tummy and all that. That allergy is not because of the plant is genetically modified. That has been there. When you modify to resist a pest, the first and one of the tests that must be done is to make sure that the genetic modification does not increase that in the product of the GMO. And so all that are done. And if we have questions, the experts should be asked, and we give the information as necessary. The experts are Nigerians, except if what we are saying is, let Nigeria fold her hands, wait, when the other part of the world finish, we will go and join them. And I'm not sure there's any nation that develops that way. That we must, as experts, we must task ourselves why God gives us the opportunity to stay here, to make our own contributions, improve what we have around,
right,
and be able to leave a legacy.
Okay, Prof.
And so the issue of GMOs causing cancer, causing this, causing that, if a chemical that you applied in a farm causes cancer, and you have a process to make sure that that chemical is no longer applied, have you not saved the situation of using the chemical that causes problems?
All right, Prof, let me bring in this other scenario. Let me bring in this other scenario. So you've spoken quite well for the cause of GMOs. But what has also been said is another side I'd like you to speak to. So while we are modifying, the organisms, the fruits, and the rest, the pests and the diseases are also getting some modification. So once they realize that they're not able to infect or affect a certain crop or disease, you know how it works with evolution, right? They try to evolve. So it's been said that we're actually now creating a new set of pests, diseases, and I mean, how far would we go? So essentially, we're creating new problems for ourselves. How do you speak to that?
Well, let me get to that. Crop improvement, just like in any other sector of life, is a continuous thing. Now, there are crops that we have bred. Look at I saw a picture of banana and plantain. The original one that we had seeds in it. They are still there at the stations that have the mandate. Like if you go to the banana and plantain improvement station at One, you will still see those ones. Through the traditional breeding, through molecular breeding, we're able to remove the seeds. Are you getting that? It's a continuous process. And the high-yielding ones also. Now, the issue of survival by organisms, which human being is a part of, is a natural instinct. And as that happens, scientists who also study the process will continue to provide means of dealing with them. So that has not started with GMOs alone. Even the traditional hybrids that we have, when you breed them to resist those organisms, they also go on to find a way, because they are living things, they will find a way of surviving. And scientists are working day in, day out to make sure that those things are dealt with. And so, if genetic modification or genetic engineering as a means of crop improvement is one of the means, it's not the only one. It's where other means have failed, scientists get to that point. Now, as that goes on, scientists will be working to improve on them to make sure that our yield gains are there. And look at the population of Nigeria today. There were other issues that people raised about the seeds of GMO and all the rest of them, that the people who developed them are the ones who are going to control the supply of the seeds. Those things are conspiracy theories. The seed companies in Nigeria are the ones that are producing that. Okay? We can give you names. You look for them. You go to their factories. You go to their farms where they do all that. And they sell to Nigerians. It's a local thing. And so now you have our hybrids. People look at them. What is on your screen now is the sesame. So, we don't have any GMO of it. It's hybrid.
Prof.
And so as that happens, we also work to improve
Prof.
the hybrids that we have.
Prof, if are you saying, by all the explanations that you're giving and all your submissions this morning, Nigerians, and indeed all of us that are concerned, should not be worried about the future of GMOs on agricultural products?
Not at all. We don't need such worries as are being propagated. Those are conspiracy theories.
Prof,
okay.
I'm going to ask you one question, and I'd like a yes or no answer to it. If given a choice, would you consume organically grown food or a genetically modified food?
Fine.
Which would you choose?
Now, let me explain to you. And that is where...
Prof, I want a yes or no answer to that question.
No. Let me explain to you what an organically grown food is, because you can grow GMO organically. That is where the misunderstanding and the wrong information is being passed. And the truth is that is where I want Nigerians to understand what is organically grown food. You can grow our normal hybrid organically. You can grow GMOs organically. And what is it? It's a system of growing crops where you do not apply any synthetic chemical to it. If it's in terms of manure, you use waste materials, animal or plants as your manure, or biological-based manures or protective agents. Now, GMO as a seed, you can plant it and grow it organically. The normal hybrid, you can plant it and grow it organically. But the conspiracy theorists who do not have this information will come and talk as if a genetically modified organism has become an extraterrestrial organism that cannot, be grown like any other crop.
But still,
So I will eat, I'm coming, a GMO that was grown with fertilizer, just like the normal hybrid that is grown with fertilizer. I will eat GMO that is grown with the application of pesticide, just like eating the normal hybrid that you apply pesticides to. Any person who tells you that GMO cannot be grown organically is ignorant.
So if given an organically grown food or a GMO that is organically grown, which would you choose?
I will choose the one that is available. If it's GMO that is available, I'll choose.
Well, that's not the answer to my question,
And
Prof.
if you give me the two of them,
let me now follow up.
Let me tell you.
Let me follow up, Prof. If you would allow me.
I will take the GMO.
Let me follow up if you would allow me. Despite your argument and the argument of so many advocates for the growing of genetically modified food crops, in the global north,
Sorry, let me get you, please.
Yeah. Despite the arguments that you put forward and the similar ones put forward by other advocates for GMOs, in Western countries, there is, standardization to the effect that food crops that are genetically modified are labeled. Would that also be, should Nigeria also be towing that path now that it is allowing genetically modified food crops into our, agricultural development, to give Nigerians a choice about whether or not they would consume GMOs or they would choose organically grown foods?
Even the National Biosafety Management Agency has a regulation on that. And that is what the experts are talking about. We have a specialist agency that regulates the practice of this, whether look at all the safety features. There is a regulation on that. If that agency that Nigeria has set up, which we should trust, decides to say, look, if you have an oil, because we are talking as if these foods are not processed. If you have an oil that you get from a crop that is genetically modified in your biscuit, label the biscuit as having part of its component as a GMO, so be it. So be it.
Prof, as we're beginning to wind down, Prof, just a quick question. Are the scientists like you considering, in these modifications that we're talking about, helping to reduce the prevalence or escalation of certain diseases in the human body organically? Is that part of the conversation?
Reducing what? I didn't get that.
You know, certain foods, certain things predispose people. Is there a way these GMOs can also help to reduce this predisposition of human bodies through the modification that is done on agricultural products so that we don't have maybe the prevalence of certain kinds of diseases? I'm just broadly asking that question, since you guys believe in it a lot and you're working hard to make sure that we get as much value as far as GMOs are concerned. Because at the end of the day, Africa is burdened with disease, and if there's a modification that can help reduce that prevalence or reduce the predisposition, I think it's welcome. Is that conversation on the table?
Yes, that conversation is on the table. I've mentioned its application in medicine and health, which nobody is arguing about. Now, there is the issue of the micro-hunger. Micro-hunger, which some of the available food we have do not have certain nutrients. If our crops are engineered to be able to generate those nutrients, especially the ones that are easily available, which could deal with those micro-hunger, that discussion is on the table, and it is welcomed. And scientists are working towards that. You see, let me make this point, since you say we're winding down. Science is not voodoo. Science is not magic. For those who come up, who don't have knowledge of what we are discussing, who have tangential knowledge, or what I may call pedestrian, in the area, jumping in to make far-reaching statements is actually unnecessary.
Right.
They are not helping Nigerians. Science of genetic engineering is not what you learn in 24 hours. Or you could just go and pick one textbook and say that I have become a biotechnologist.
Well, Prof.
People went through training, look at the safety lines. For me, as far back as 2012, to say, look, the issue of genetic engineering cannot be regulated by a body like NAFDAC, SON, and all the rest of them.
Right.
That Nigeria requires a specialist body made up of experts
Well,
to be
Prof,
able to deal with that.
we have to run now, and that's why we brought you.
All
You're
right.
an expert to really walk us through. Expert knowledge is very vital. But just quickly, when you bite an apple and it changes color, does that mean it's GMO? Because that has been trending as well.
Not at all.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue with my apple, Prof.
If you pick your local guava and bite it, some of them, if you keep them, they change color.
Thank you very much,
If you cut your banana and keep it, it changes color.
Okay.
So how does a color change because you have opened the fruit and you expose it and the air is touching part of the fruit?
So that's a natural
how does
chemical
it make it
reaction.
a GMO?
And the seedless ones,
Exactly.
what about the seedless apples? Obviously, they are GMOs, right?
I mentioned from the beginning here that we have bred our own banana,
All right.
even to become seedless.
Okay.
Some of our, what is it called now, watermelon,
Right.
we have bred them here, not through GMO, to become seedless.
Okay.
And so why do we tag anything we say hybrid to be GMO?
So it is safe to say at this point that literally everyone is eating some sort of GMO. It's just the level now that we are having a debate about. But Prof, you've provided a lot of clarity, and we must thank you for that. Professor Celestine Agworu, President, Nigeria Biotech and Biosafety Consortium, also Dean College of Biological Sciences, Federal University of Agriculture, Benue State, joining us from our Kano studio. Thank you so much for your time on the show. I'll, of course, go back to my apple right now.
Thank you very much. Please eat your apple and leave conspiracy theories.
I will. I bought it with my hard-earned money. Oh, we'll go to break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to, well, Nollywood. We have one of the rising stars, you may say, joining us in just a few moments. You don't want to miss this. So stay with us while I have my apple.